rickety old wooden boat in the middle of a lake. And my old life is the shoreline. And I keep trying to get back to the shore, but every time I do, some wave of grief or uncertainty or anxiety or some situation just knocks me over. So I'm just in the middle of this lake waving my hands at my old life. I just felt like my old life had gone and I didn't know how to get any stability anymore.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I interview inspiring creative influencers who are radically changing the way we think about aging. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, psychotherapist and fellow Zestful Ager. Our music is provided by Judy Banker, who was a guest on Zestful Aging. Her CD, Buffalo Motel, will be out in January of 2020. Find out more about Judy at her website, judybanker.com. And I've got my loyal Jack Russell Terrier, Sparky, by my side, so let's begin. Today, I am delighted to be speaking to Joanna Moseley. Jo has been picking up garbage or litter picking across England's canal while traveling on a paddle boat. She's the first woman to paddleboard coast to coast, litter picking and fundraising. And she's traveled a total of 162 miles from Liverpool to Goole. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And she's raised more than $1,000 for charity, and she's recorded a video diary during this amazing journey. Welcome to the show, Jo.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So your story begins in 2013 in what you would call in the biscuit aisle of a supermarket. Yeah. We call those cookies. Tell us what happened in the cookie aisle, Jo.
I actually went to college in America for a year, so I do know about cookies.
Good.
So what happened? I burst into tears. Literally, I just started sobbing, and I was with my two sons, who were 16 and 12 at the time, and I just was crying. And I said, I can't cope. I just can't cope anymore. This is all too much for me. And so they were obviously, hugely embarrassed. We left the supermarket quite quickly. We paid for our goods and left. And I just recounted this to a friend the next day. And from that day on, my life sort of changed, really. It was like another rock bottom moment. And it just sort of went up from there.
What did you mean when you said, I just can't cope anymore?
Just life was just overwhelming me. I am a single mum, so I've looked after my boys for 12 years now. I think I've been divorced. Both my parents at the time were having chemotherapy. And at the same time, it was a bit crazy. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was probably going through the early stages of the perimenopause. I wasn't sleeping. I was just incredibly anxious the whole time, just exhausted. So I just felt like life was too much, and I just couldn't cope with just one more shopping trip, really. It was just all too much for me.
All too much. And so you were working also while you were raising your boy?
Yeah. I've always kind of been the breadwinner for the boys. So I was working, and it was one of those times straight after school when you're doing errands, and it was just like, this is too much. I just want to go home.
And you were how old at the time?
48.
So you just kind of had this, maybe what we call like a breakdown, and just said, I'm at the end of the line.
Yeah. I mean, I just kept on going and kept on going. I don't know if the doctors would say it was like a technically a breakdown, but it was at that moment, it all just was too much for me. But, mums, we just get up the next day. I went to bed early, got up the next day and just started it all over again. And then I told a friend, I sort of told her in a bit of a jokey way, really. And then she said, how much do you exercise? And I was like, Well, kind of, running after the boys. I mean, I spent my whole weekend at rugby pitches but I wasn't playing. Obviously, I was on the side.
Right.
So it was just like busy, busy, busy. And you think you're busy and you're running around everywhere, but you're not really. You're just busy looking after everybody else.
Mhm.
And so she asked me that, and she lent me an old indoor rowing machine. And I started indoor rowing in my kitchen on this kind of machine that was about to die, really. And 2 weeks later, I started sleeping. That for me is
Mm.
the key thing. If I sleep, I can function. If I don't sleep, I can't
Mhm.
function.
Mhm. So this was
So
sort of a little bit of a, how shall we say, sort of serendipity that
yeah,
you crashed, you talked to your friend, and you said, "Oh
yeah,
my goodness," and she said, "Oh, I have this rickety old rowing machine,"
yeah,
and
yeah,
but how did you and you were so burnt out. How did you
yeah.
get these sort of the get up and go to try this rowing machine when you were so tired?
I think it was just I was at my wit's end that I would try anything. Like if
Mhm.
she'd said, I don't know, if she'd invited me to a yoga class, I would have gone. I think I was willing to try anything that would
Mm,
help me sleep.
I
And I thought,
see.
well, if I just row myself to exhaustion physically, and she made it easy. She gave it to me. It was in my kitchen. I didn't have to join a gym. I didn't have to put on any. I didn't actually own any leggings. I had this old pair of sort of tracksuit. In fact, I still had my college tracksuit bottoms from
Oh,
1986, 87.
uh-huh.
That was about the only tracksuit leggings I had. And so I didn't have to make that much effort other than to simply sit on the rowing
Sit
machine
and do it.
and do it. And it was just extraordinary how I started to sleep. And suddenly, life just looks better when you sleep, I think.
Oh, that is for sure. So I'm guessing you were pretty sore the next day after not
Yeah.
exercising. The rowing machine's hard
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, it is. I didn't, it's really funny because I didn't do it for any physical reason other than the exhaustion. So I can't
Mm,
really remember how it felt other than maybe my body just felt good. It just had felt so bad for so long, so exhausted,
mhm.
so worn out, and aches and pains and joint aches and all the things that seem to come with me with the perimenopause, that I just felt good, and the goodness overrode whatever and other feelings that came with
Mm,
it. Yeah.
And what did the boys think of their mom in her in her old tracksuit on a
Oh,
rickety rowing machine in the
well,
kitchen?
I just think, if she's off our case and she's not crying in supermarkets, then it's all good.
It's all good. We're
It's
happy.
all good. We're happy.
Oh,
We're happy. We're happy. So they just let me get on with it. They've always been very much like, you just get on with your thing, Mum. That's great. So
right.
yeah, I think they were just really pleased, and yeah, so it just changed a lot of things.
So this became a regular habit for you, is
Hmm.
doing your rowing machine. And
Yeah.
then what happens next?
So that was in the June of 2013. And then in the December of that year, just before Christmas, my mum died. She
Mm.
had lymphoma. And so she went into hospital at the end of November, and she died on the 21st of December. So that obviously was just awful for all of us.
Mm.
But I found really weirdly that by this time I joined the gym. I think the old rowing machine had actually sort of collapsed at this point. So I had joined a gym, and I found that I would keep going back to the gym just to row, literally just to row. And it sort of struck me that this was offering me something now, through all the grief and all the sort of supporting my dad, supporting my sons. It was offering me
Mhm.
something. And I then went to bereavement counselling, which was extraordinary. And I can't recommend it enough. It was the most
Okay.
extraordinary experience. And in bereavement counselling, he said to me, "How do you feel?" And I said, "I feel like I'm in a rickety old wooden boat in the middle of a lake, and my old life is the shoreline. And I keep trying to get back to the shore, but every time I do, some wave of grief or uncertainty or anxiety or some situation just knocks me over. So I'm just in the middle of this lake waving my hands at my old life. I just felt like my old life had gone and I didn't know how to get any stability anymore. And he said to me, what do you think you need to do? And I said, I need to sit down and row back to my own life. And obviously I meant it metaphorically,
Yes.
but 3 weeks later, I think it was, on the 5th of May, which is my parents' wedding anniversary, I decided that I was going to start to row 1,000,000 meters and a marathon for Macmillan Cancer Support, which is an organization that supports people with cancer. And they had supported my parents. And so I decided to do this. And for the next 8 months, I rowed 10,000 meters every other night after work. And so what had seemed like a kind of metaphorical idea of rowing back to the shoreline of my life, I actually did that. And I rowed the marathon on the first anniversary of my mum's death and 5 days before my 50th birthday. So yeah, really. And I actually don't know how I did it now. So we raised £10,000, which is an awful lot of money. And I realized then that the rowing and just the physical moving had helped me with my grief. So it was like the moving had helped with my menopause. It had helped me with my grief, my anxiety. And I just realized it was so much more than I'd ever imagined moving could be, really.
And there's this other, such a meaningful piece to it. You're not just saying, well, this is kind of like medicine. I'm going to row and I'll feel better. I mean, you have this other piece of, raising money for a cause that you believe deeply in.
Yeah. And that's the thing. People said, how did you find the motivation? And it was not about motivation. There was no motivation involved, really. It was like it was like a must rather than a should. It was like I must do this. I need to do this for my mum, and I need to do it. Yeah, I needed to do it for my mum, and I needed to do it for my sons, to see that we had lost. Oh gosh, sorry. We had lost this huge part of our lives, but that we could create something positive as well. So yeah, it was a really crazy thing to do, but it helped me. Different people turn to different sources, and I turned to a rowing machine. But yeah, I hope that by raising all that money, that some other families could be supported. And even though my mum thought exercise was just ridiculous, and why would anyone do it? She let's be honest about it. I mean, she used to swim, but she never got her hair wet or her makeup never, And she used to swim with all her jewelry on, and so exercise for her was like, well, why would you do that? But she did swim a lot, and it was like, I just hope that she would feel that there was something positive and that some good came out of it.
And what did the boys think as you're doing these extreme sports?
The same thing. She's off our case.
It's all about don't look in my room and leave me alone.
Yeah, I think they've always been quite proud. Like, I sort of say to them, hey, I did this, or I'm in a newspaper or whatever, and they'll go, oh yeah, no, that's cool. Or they'll say, yeah, I saw that on Instagram. But I think they're proud. I think they're proud. They tell me that they're proud, and they I think I've learned a lot from my sons about being brave and courageous in their decisions, and I hope that they've maybe seen me do some stuff, so we kind of bounce off each other. We've kind of all been through difficult times, the three of us, but we hopefully can spur each other on to do good things. So yeah, they just sort of like, oh yeah, I saw that on Instagram, Mum, cool.
And I saw something on social media where it was pouring down rain, and you were on your paddleboard litter picking, just drenched. And tell me what you tell us what you saw at the end of that journey.
So I think that probably the one that you've seen is as I arrived in Goole. So Goole is the most inland port in the UK. It's as much coast to coast as you can get across the north. And I'd been paddleboarding for 11 days. That day, it started with brilliant sunshine. It was so beautiful. And the wind for the first time was really behind my back, because I'd gone through the first 2 days of the trip had non-stop rain, and we'd had thunder and lightning. And this was the final day. And I had this image that I would arrive, in sunshine, and it would all be just sort of beautiful. And the day, beautiful sunshine, I stood up on my paddleboard, I put my paddle out, which made me almost like into a sail. And I was pushing along and pushing along. And then about 20 minutes before we arrived, or my board and I always call her we, my board and I arrived, another woman came out who's a British canoeing ambassador like myself, and she was in her little kayak, and she came out and joined me, and it just started to rain, and like rain and thunder and lightning, and like somebody was literally pouring a bucket over us. And so we paddled through, and we were laughing. I didn't even have time to put my my waterproof leggings on, and we were laughing in a way. And I kind of crossed this imaginary finish line, and there was a group of people there which I had not expected to be there cheering. And I just sort of arrived in Goole in this thunderstorm and went to the edge. A really amazing woman called Frit, who is making a film with me about it. She was there and saying, she's arrived. And they gave me some flowers, and I sort of stood there holding these flowers in the air as the rain poured down on me. And it was just really weird. And then the most amazing thing happened, Nicole, because this rainbow came out, and it was the most extraordinary rainbow. Now, I haven't really told many people why I cried. So at this point, I was videoing myself for some a TV company that wanted some footage. So I was videoing myself with the rainbow behind me, and I couldn't stop crying. And everybody was like, are you crying because you're exhausted? Are you crying because you've achieved it? And all those things were true. But also when my mum was dying in the hospital, she said, if you ever see a rainbow or a white feather, I am there. So I was, this footage of me literally crying and holding my mouth, because I can't, when you're trying to stop yourself crying and it's obviously not working. So I knew my dad would be there. He's 86, and I knew my dad would be there, and I knew that my dad would know what that meant to me. And so I was just like holding it back, and they were like, that's really amazing. You must be exhausted. And I was like, yeah, I'm exhausted. So I saw my dad, and I said, did you see the rainbow? And he was like, yes. And all my family were like, did you see the rainbow? Like my mum's best friend, she just sent me a message saying, I saw the rainbow. Mum was there, And so it was just a really weird sort of extra thing that I had not at all anticipated. And I haven't really spoken when I went onto the local TV studios. They asked about that, and I was like, yeah, no, I was just really exhausted and really overwhelmed, because I didn't really feel it was the right appropriate time to talk about my mum at the time. But yeah, it was just really weird. It's like, she was there.
Oh boy. Well, you're giving me chills across the ocean right now. My goodness. So many levels of meaning, your mom being there, you doing this amazing work, and, from this breakdown in the cookie aisle, here's this woman paddling. Hey, Zestful Agers. Last year, I attended the International Federation on Aging's Global Conference in Toronto, and they've announced the 15th Global Conference on Aging for Niagara Falls, Ontario, from November 1st through 3rd, 2020. Zestful Aging Podcast is a proud partner for this conference, and I encourage you to all consider attending. The conference features prominent experts presenting and discussing critical issues within the field of aging. So head on over to ifa2020.org to learn more, and I hope to see you in Niagara Falls in November. How do you do this, Joe? What are the logistics? You have spots where you'll pull over and be hosted and sleep, eat?
Yeah, so I'm really, really, really bad at asking for help. I think it's this whole single mum thing. It's like I've got to do it 1,000 times better than everybody else,
Oh,
and
boy.
yeah, really crazy. And so I had booked accommodation in little hotels for the beginning and the end. But some friends on Twitter had offered to host me for one night, and then in the middle, I was passing through near where I live. So I live in the middle of the country and the canal comes through my town. So for 4 nights, I was able to stay at home. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to say, you can have adventures on your doorstep. You don't have to travel around another part of the world. You can have these most amazing experiences really close to home. So on those nights, a friend of mine, her daughter, her 18-year-old daughter, offered to collect me from the canal, take me home, pick me up in the morning, take me back to the same spot. And so it was really amazing. I was on this incredible journey, but for 4 nights I was able to sleep at home and put a wash on. So, and then also stay with people that I'd met on Twitter. And literally I said to my boys, oh yeah, so I'm staying with this family. And they were like, so how do you know them, Mum? And I'm like, so I met them on Twitter. And they're like, God. Okay, let's just, okay, you met them on Twitter. That's great. And then I'm like, yeah, but I Skyped them and they look really nice.
Oh,
and,
my gosh.
And they're just like, oh my goodness.
This is what the mother says to the kids.
Yes.
Don't meet up with people on social media.
Yeah, this is just crazy. But I've met so many people from social media in real life, and it has brought such joy to my life that I just figured these people, I said, look, if they wanted to harm me, they would not go to this trouble of doing it. And I said, I followed them on social media. I followed the wife isn't on social media much, but the man is, and he's really into yoga. So I don't think yoga.
How bad can he be?
Yeah, he's just. I just don't think people into yoga would kill me. And they're just like, and they're just looking and shaking their heads. And so Frit and I, the filmmaker and I, we were, she was with me that night. And so we were driving to their house and we were going, what if they kill us? And she's like, I don't know, but I'm just really hungry. So I think before they do, we could just eat.
Have a little nibble.
Yes, and they were just amazing. And that had been one of the hardest days of the trip. And I sort of arrived really wet and cold and a bit smelly and a bit like, and they were just really wonderful. Yeah, so sometimes at hotels, sometimes at home. And I think if I was doing something again, I would possibly ask to stay with people if they, and say, look, could anybody put me up? I didn't dare do that, but I think I would next time because they said they enjoyed it. And I was like, really? Are we not an imposition? And they're like, no, it's really lovely to be part of something that you're doing. And so, yeah, it all worked out really, really well.
So give us a little taste of what it is like to be paddleboarding on the canal, and you're picking up trash. How does this work?
Well, I have quite a big paddleboard.
Okay.
So I have quite a bit of room at the front, and I knew that I couldn't pick up everything because in some areas there's just too much, but I wanted to do some every day and record on my social media what I'd found so that people could understand what was in the canals, because 80% of what ends up on our beaches starts inland. So if we can all make a difference inland, it doesn't get to the beaches and doesn't get to the ocean. So I would just pick stuff up and I'd take photographs and record it. And then sometimes people along the way would see what I had on the front of my board or in my bag and say, would you like me to take it away for you? Yeah. So people were really helpful, or if I got to a place where I could dispose of it, I would. So I did, I wasn't taking everything. I just wanted to show what was there and do something every day. And some stuff I couldn't take because it was like massive traffic cones or wheelbarrows.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So, but it was interesting. I mean, really distressing in some areas, really distressing what we saw, and the impact of the plastic on some of the bird life. I mean, the birds are really resilient, but that was really distressing. But each day was so different on the canal, the architecture. So this particular canal is over 200 years old. So you come through these amazing industrial towns where the mill owners had built, beautiful architecture. And then you go through countryside, you go through towns. I mean, it's just each area was different. There were no 2 days the same. So each day was just very, very different. It was lovely.
And these are man-made canals, 200 years.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So they were made in order to transport the goods between towns. It was the most efficient way, and obviously now they're not used for that. So now they're used for really well-being of people going near the canals, walking by them, paddleboarding, canoeing, and narrow boats. People use it for leisure. So it's all about looking after them, and then the canals sort of looking after our well-being by just being so beautiful and soothing, really.
Tell me about some of the animals you ran into.
So it was mainly bird life. I saw so many birds. I spent a lot of time with ducks, which are really sweet, moorhens, geese, swans, which sometimes can be a little bit tricky. When they've got cygnets, they're
aggressive.
Yeah, they can be, but they seem to be, the cygnets were getting older by the time I was coming along. So mainly there was just a couple of incidents when they were a bit aggressive, but they were just doing their job. They were just protecting their young. I saw herons, I saw an egret. Yeah, I just saw the most beautiful bird life. And then I would hear sort of oyster catchers and things around me. And so, yeah, it was lovely. Really, really extraordinary, actually.
How did it change you to go on this massive trip from, one end of the other? Can you put into words how it changed you as a woman?
I think because I was on my own so much and I didn't listen to podcasts or music, I just listened to the nature. I think it allowed me to hear my own thoughts and my own voice. It allowed me to sort of tap into what was important, or what is important to me now going forward in this sort of new empty nest stage of my life. I think it gave me more confidence. I think what was interesting was, I think I just realized I was a lot braver than I thought I was. And I think we all are a lot braver than we think we are. And, you make decisions and you say, right, I'm going to try. Like one day I paddled 25 miles. And that was probably the most amazing day because I came into my town at 10:30 at night. So I paddled through the darkness on my own. I paddled through 2 tunnels. One was a mile long. So you do things
pitch dark. In the pitch dark.
Yeah. And it's on a traffic light system. So you have half an hour by which so that the narrow boats coming from the other way have to stop. So you have a half an hour to do it. And I paddled through this tunnel, and I'm not afraid of the dark, but I'm not great in the dark.
Right.
But it was like, okay, you just have to do it. And I think I just learned that I'm braver than I thought. And I think we all are. And I feel like I didn't know at the start of the adventure how it would end. I never doubted really that I would do it because it was so much in my heart to do it. But I didn't know every step along the way. I didn't know what the weather would be like. I didn't know what the locks would be like. I didn't know that we were going to have this awful duckweed, which just basically slows you down. It gets under your fin and it's like this weed. And I didn't know all these different things. I didn't know every aspect of what was going to happen, but I set out anyway. And every day I just gave it my best. And I guess that has really helped me make decisions for my futures. Like I've always, like somebody said, you always just wait until all the lights go green. And actually, I know that I don't have to wait till I have every single thing in place now. I just have to go with it and trust that I will make the best of every situation and just do it. I think I've always been quite timid about taking any level of risk. And now I sort of feel, no, you can trust yourself to make the best of it. You know, you'll make the right decision for that time, and maybe you'll look back and it might not be the best decision, but you'll do it with the best intentions at the time. And yeah, it makes me a little bit braver about choices that I'll make in the future. So,
it sounds like not as cautious and not as much like, what if I make a mistake? What if it doesn't go well? That you just say, listen, I'm gonna figure it out. I don't know what it is, but I know I have the capacity to figure it out.
Yeah, and exactly, I have it within me to figure. I have it within me to figure it out, and I'll figure it out. I have to trust myself to figure it out the best I can, and trust that what I do at that time is good enough, and not already tell myself that the decision I make 2 months down the line isn't good enough. It's like, just trust that you can do it, and trust in your ability, and trust yourself to be kind, because to be kind to myself. So, you know, there were days when like I say, I paddleboarded 25 miles. So I paddleboarded until 10:30 at night, and it was extraordinary. And that was the kindest decision I could make for myself, because I could have finished at 8 o'clock that night. I was with friends. My friend's daughter was ready to collect me, and I said, no, I want to go the extra couple of hours or so and get home, get closer to my home. And I know I'll be paddleboarding through the night, or not through the night, but till 10:30 in the evening. I know it will be difficult, but I feel I have it within me. And that was the kindest decision I could do for myself, because I created this extraordinary memory for myself that it will be like one of the best days of my life. And the next day, I think I've paddled 10 miles, and I said to Frit, I just want to stop now. I don't have it in me. And we were due to meet somebody, and I texted her and I said, we're not going to make it today. I don't think I have it within me to make it to you today. Can we come tomorrow? And she was amazing. She's a mindfulness teacher, and she said, well done for making that decision. And I was just like, because I think my text had like 14 sorries in. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. But I don't think I've got it within me. And she said, well done for making that decision, and making the decision, you know, for your well-being. And then the next day we went and saw her. Yeah, because I said, but I don't have it in me. The weather was horrible, and I just didn't feel that I needed, you know. And so Frit and I spent an evening together. We were at my house that night, and we chatted. And the next day we met up with this friend along the route, and it just was the right decision. And it's like trusting myself that I can make the right decision for myself.
Wow. Life-changing. Absolutely life-changing.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. What is your next project, Jo?
Well, we're finishing the film, and I'm going to I'm looking into how I can train to become a paddleboard instructor, so that I can take mainly women, I think, out onto the water. I've been taking some friends out, and I love that. I've taken one woman twice. She doesn't have her own paddleboard, and I have two. So I take her out, and we litter pick, and we chat. And I always take a photograph of her looking like a real warrior with a paddle. And and she says it just makes her feel great. And I thought, if I could do this and take more women out, and have sort of like well-being on the water days. So we talk, we maybe do some stretching and yoga, and we pick up litter, and we have some great food. So that's really my main next focus is and I can do that alongside my job, because I have a normal day job, as well as my water fitness that I teach in the swimming pool. So yeah, it's just adding to my portfolio really of things I can do. And then when the film comes out, we'll talk about that. So yeah.
And do we have a name for the film?
No, we keep going around in circles. We have ideas, and Frit has ideas. So, I mean, Frit met me on Instagram, and she asked if she could come and make the film with me. And I said, look, I have zero budget for a film. I know they're really expensive to make. So I said, I can pay for your food, and I can pay for your fuel to come, and I can put you up, and I can give you peanut butter sandwiches for lunch, but I can't really, I can't really do anything else. So it's very much in her hands. And so she's, the time scale, she works and has other projects. So we'll be meeting up in next month and we'll probably discuss it. But we had only probably spent 2 hours together before we then spent 8 days together.
Oh my goodness. More courage.
Yeah. So literally we had met one day at an event that I was speaking at, and then we met at another event and we had coffee, a cup of tea together. And then she turned up literally at the beginning of the canal and said, right, I'm here to spend she spent like 4 days with me, and then she was away for a bit, and then she came back for a bit. And, literally I set off and I was like, this woman is going to be with me. And I have no idea who she is. We literally stayed in the same room that night, like a twin room. And it was just like, I don't really know her.
Oh my God. There's a theme here, Jo.
Yeah.
There's a theme about you like making connections and having people join you and be just inspired by you. I feel like you're the Pied Piper and everyone's fun.
It was just really weird, when you think about it. And the funny thing was, well, not funny, but that day I think I was so full of adrenaline and excitement that I didn't drink and eat enough. So we arrived at the hotel and my legs were shaking and I was swaying, and I was like, oh, what if this is like what paddleboarding does to me long distance, and it was just because I hadn't eaten enough. And so I was really I dropped my phone and cracked it, and I'd only had my phone like about a month, and I cracked the screen and I was like, oh gosh, because I was just like not quite there. And again, and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I just I'm fine. And I just realized I just hadn't eaten and drunk enough, so I was just shaky for that reason. But so we're working on the film and just seeing where things take me, and really, so my youngest son has just gone to university, so I'm also just kind of going with the whole flow of being a single mum, empty nester, and working on that, and so it's all new, and
it's unfolding.
It's unfolding, and he's literally going with the flow, like just saying, okay, this is different, this is new, so all good.
That is all good indeed. And where can people find you and follow your adventures?
I'm mainly on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm at Healthy Happy 50. So Healthy Happy and then 50. Okay. And I do have a website, which is healthyhappy50.com, and I have about 1,000 blogs to upload.
Oh dear!
I need to keep them. I need to start uploading and being a bit more on the ball about it. But I do record everything on my Instagram, and I do write quite like they're little micro blogs really on Instagram. Just keep everything in touch there. So it's all very exciting.
It's beautiful. Do you have any last words or advice for our listeners who are all over the world and I think would really understand what you're saying, this idea of, I can't cook one more meal. I can't do one more load of laundry. I can't, I'm at the end here of my stamina. And what would you advise them?
I would just say that they probably got to that point, if they're like me, by not putting themselves on the priority list, by just thinking that everybody else is higher up that list and you can't pour from an empty cup. And I know that it's, we all have so many responsibilities at this age. We've got parents to look after or children to look after or other relatives and working. But it is just really important to carve out some time to look after yourself. And I think sometimes we need permission almost to do that. And I wish somehow I had given myself permission to do that long before I got to that point where I was, crying, looking at the chocolate biscuits. It's we have to. So I would just encourage them to look after themselves. And if that is just literally going to bed sooner or going for a walk or taking exercise or saying no to things. I've recently said no to something and it was really excruciatingly difficult. It was like a volunteer role and I was like, no, I can't. I've been doing it a while. I can't, after January, I can't do it anymore.
Yes.
And it was like, oh God, I'm a really bad person. But actually somebody else will step up. I've done my role with that. And I had to do that to allow myself other opportunities. And sometimes we just have to say no to other people in order to say yes to ourselves, really. So yeah, I would just encourage them to do that, because I know that feeling of thinking you can't go on. And it's not it's not a happy place. We need to give to ourselves as much as we give to everybody else.
Amen on that. That's a theme that runs through many of the interviews, and many,
Really?
many people, particularly women, say that exact same thing, that I thought to be a good person, I had to be super mom, super career, all of this. And it's a myth. We can't do everything all the time. Something has to give. And this is how, and it just turned out so beautifully for you.
Oh, thank you. I think in the 80s we were told that we could have it all and we could do it all and we could be it all. And I think maybe you can, but not all at the same time. So, you can be a mum and have a career, but, maybe my career will change, but that will be in my 50s, not when I was, I think we put so much pressure on people, on women particularly. And you just sometimes, so my son was going to university, and he came home and he said, Mum, I bought an iron. And I went, why did you buy an iron? And we have two in the cupboard. You could have taken both of them. I don't iron. And he went, oh God, yeah, I forgot that we have one. And I was like, why did you forget? He said, because I can't remember ever seeing you use it for the last several years. And I was like, I know, we've got two irons that I don't use because I don't iron. If my sons need any shirts ironing, they always iron their own. I wear jumpers and I wear blouses where you just see the collar, and that's just the thing I do. That's just one of the things that had to give. It was going on an adventure or ironing. And I know which age it is because I love jumpers.
That is hysterical.
So
I love that, going on an adventure or ironing. Beautiful.
Oh gosh.
Beautiful. So, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank
you. So
much
fun to talk to you. And I just love what you're doing. I love your adventurous spirit. I love your bird watching and your trash picking. All of those things speak to my heart. And I wish you such good luck on the film. And
thank you.
I'm sure our audience will be following your adventures.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at NicoleChristina.com. In this phase of our lives, we're more aware that our time is precious, and we certainly don't want to waste it taking care of stuff that we no longer need, left over from a life that we are no longer living. We know we would feel better with less clutter and more open space, but we don't know how to get there. If this sounds familiar, I'd love you to check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. This course is different than others you may have tried because we give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and tools to help you face the overwhelm and feelings that come up when you're going through your clutter. It's practical and realistic, and the lessons are short and punchy and very manageable, but it has the power to change your life. We all deserve to live in a peaceful home without the chaos of too much stuff. Find out more at NicoleChristina.com. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.